Hey, it's Holly, and I was just talking to a few people in our inner circle and realized that I had not talked about this much outside of some private groups. One of the things that I had done is hired an executive assistant recently. It's been about maybe 5 months, and so it was a pretty public process since I posted it on my personal profile, and so I wanted to kind of walk through how I did that because it was something that worked out really well, and I know it's something that a lot of people struggle with, trying to find help. So, hi Sharon, hi Rachel. So it all started with a time study, and I don't know if you're familiar with Alex Sharfin, but I listened to his Momentum podcast, and I've had some training with him, and I really liked, well, actually I hated what he told us to do, but thought it was, hi Marissa, it's a bane of my existence, I love it. So he told us to do this time study, which was horrifying, but good all at the same time. So what he suggested was to get a piece of paper and every 15 minutes for 2 weeks, you write down what you were doing. So, which is like the biggest interruption of your entire life. Hi, Jenny. But it gave so much information. So I did it. And for 2 weeks, I wrote down what I did every 15 minutes when I remembered. And then I started setting a timer so I'd remember better. But, and then after that, you go through and you basically evaluate, is this something that you absolutely have to do yourself, or is this something that you could delegate to someone else? So I did that, and at the end of 2 weeks, I looked through everything and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like the most efficient person in the entire world. Big pat on the back to Holly Homer, because that was amazing. And then I realized, because I was pretty much sure everything that was on my list was stuff that I had to do, but I was very efficient at it. And so then I realized that if I was gonna keep up that pace, I would die or not have a life or not, all those kind of things. So it was very clear that I had to make a change, and I had to have help. So I went through again, not repeating this time study. I just went through with better kind of clarity that I needed to find things on that list that I could offload to someone else. And the truth is that there are very smart and capable, amazing people that can do things that I thought that I had to do myself. And so I basically wrote a list of everything I thought I could offload, and of course added in the things I didn't love doing. And so I basically at that point came up with some sort of assistant role, even though I wouldn't call it an executive assistant officially, since there's no set hours and no set schedule, and they can work anywhere and they can have other clients because it's not a full-time job. I wrote out a job description, but it's more of a contract position because it is very variable from day to day and that kind of thing. So I wrote out all the things that I wanted help with, and it was a pretty long list. And the main things that I was having problem with was email maintenance, making sure that I had several email accounts and they're all over the place, and some of them I was forgetting to answer, some of them, all that kind of stuff. So it was email. It was the same thing that was happening in my messenger. Those of you who use ManyChat know how horrendous your inbox on your messenger can be. So I needed help with that. I also needed help, since I primarily run Kids Activities blog, I'm really, really good at the editorial content and the social media for that. But I had nothing going on at hollyhomer.com, and which is still a work in progress. I feel like it's like the cobbler whose children have no shoes. So one of my priorities was to get help with that and stuff like that. So I put everything down, and then I pulled out maybe the main 5 tasks that I wanted help with, and I put a image on my personal Facebook page that said, I'm hiring an assistant. Please share this with someone if you know anyone that might be interested. And so it went out and then I put a Google form that basically had just, tell me who you are, how to contact you, what your skills are. And then I think one of the most important things I put on there, which I'll just share this with you because it was really helpful, is what do you expect to be paid? Because the variation of what was responded to was immense. And it's not that, that those duties aren't worth that much. I mean, like, I've been doing them myself, so obviously I thought they were super important. It was a situation where I just wanted to know, like, what their expectations were, and obviously I had a budget, so that was another thing that was in there. So, so I put that up on my personal Facebook profile, and people were so generous in sharing it. So I saw a lot of my friends shared it to their walls. I have friends that run Facebook groups that shared it into those people were looking for working from home. Oh, thanks, Birdie. You love my tree. I love my trees. So, and then this is the masterpiece from yesterday. So anyway, they were super generous in sharing all over the place, which was really helpful because I was going to post it to my list or to Kids Activities blog if I didn't find enough interest. But like, I had 50 people respond to the Google form. So I had plenty of and the cool thing is there was so much talent in that pool. It was crazy. Like, y'all, like, people on Facebook are super smart. So anyway, what happened next is I went through and I just went through the list and eliminated them. It was very, very clear that there were some people that their expectations were for their pay were way over my budget, and which is totally awesome. Like, I get that, and I didn't want to insult them by offering them a lot less than they were worth. So those were the first people I was able just to eliminate, and I just sent them a sweet little note saying thank you so much. Basically, I can't afford you, but I love you. And so then the people that were left, I went through and sent out invitations with specific instructions to meet me on Zoom for a 10-minute call. And so I sent out about 15 of those, I believe. And what the goal of the 10-minute call was just to kind of weed out, get a feeling for how we would work together, see if it's really a good fit for them. And obviously, if they're gonna be working with me, we need to get along. So I sent those out, and then and it had pretty specific instructions because I know a lot of people that had applied, they weren't necessarily people that were in the blogging space or the social media space, which was completely fine because most of the stuff I needed was more assistant type things, and I love to train, so it's no big deal if I had to show them how to do something. But I needed them to be willing to follow instructions the way I give instructions. So one of the first kind of tests was I sent them the instructions on how to get on a Zoom call, because not everybody in the world has been on those. And that was kind of the first thing. There was one or two people that just were not able to follow the instructions as I gave them. That's okay. I totally get people that can't understand me. So, but that's not going to make a super good assistant. So that helped weed out a little bit. And then on those 10-minute calls that were face-to-face, I asked 3 questions. The first question was kind of about their background and skill set. Just tell me a little bit about them. I just wanted to know kind of what they thought was important for me to know. And I kind of phrase it that way. What do you think is important for me to know about your background and your skill set? And then the second question was one that Alex Sharfin had suggested we use if we are kind of a public-facing person. And that is, and so many of you are, whether it be a blogger or an influencer or a seller in a direct sales company, that kind of stuff, is you're very public about it. So he said, if you are public about a lot of what you're doing, one of the things you can ask is, what do you know about my business? Now, this was really, really impressing We're the only one calls or group calls. Yeah, they were one-on-one, Marissa. So if you had applied, Marissa, I would have said, hey, and they also had to schedule it through like a scheduling system like Calendly or something like that. So, hey, go do that, and then I'll send you instructions on how to jump on the Zoom call. So that they didn't know how many other people were there at how many other people I was interviewing at any given time. So the interesting thing was, so when I asked them what they know about my business, some of them, like, even though I had no prior knowledge of them, or we weren't friends on Facebook, because there was like a lot of people that were like friends of friends that applied, they knew a lot. They had Googled me. They had, figured out like different things. They had watched a video or two. It was really interesting. And then there were some people that had no knowledge whatsoever. Like, I don't know what you do. And so for me, I didn't really care that I didn't really care either way if they had like Googled me or not. I did think it was an indication of like how interested they were in the position. So it was just something I weighed. It wasn't a super heavy thing, but it was just something that I thought was interesting to know. And then the third thing that I asked them was the box question. And the box is, I say, I'm going to tell you a scenario. I need you to like tell me an answer. It's a really crazy scenario. So I say, I am inviting you into a room, and in the room there's a long table, and at one end of the table there is a box. You're gonna sit down at this end of the table, and when you open the box, it is a task. And every day you're gonna come in and you're gonna sit down at that end of the table, you're gonna open up the box, and you get to, like, this task, this project is yours. You can make it more efficient, you can make it prettier, you can make it better, and every day you get to improve upon this project, and it's like kind of your baby. And if somebody saw it like 6 months later, they probably wouldn't even recognize it, because you've just made it amazing, because every day you can just do whatever you need to do to make it better. And then on the other side of the table is also a box. And in that box, you open it, and every single day there's a new project in there. So like, no matter what it held the day before, the next day you come back and there's something new. So the box question isn't necessarily like a right or wrong question. It's going to really depend on the type of thing that, like, you're hiring for. So with me, even though my assistant position had a lot of the same tasks every day, like going through my email and ManyChat and helping me with my schedule and that kind of stuff, I know myself, and I know from personal experience, that I drive people crazy who want to do the same thing every day. Like, if you want to do the same thing every day and you're around me, I will drive you crazy. I know this because I'm married to one of those people. So at home, I like adapt myself so I don't drive my husband crazy. But like for my assistant, that was not something, like, I don't need to be like changing the way that I do things to make sure that I don't drive them crazy. Like, why don't we just find someone who wants to do something new every day and excels at that? I know, Marissa, we get it. And those of you who are not like that is no judgment on you, but we need to be careful not to drive you crazy. I guess that's the judgment I have to make. So anyway, so for me, I needed someone who was really excited about the box that had the new project every day, because I have hired the other type of person in the past, and it's just not a good fit for them. I stress them out. And that will not work long term for either one of them. Yeah, and I don't want to micromanage my insanity. No, we don't have time to micromanage our craziness. So those were the 3 questions that I asked in that kind of mini interview, and I made sure they were no longer than 10 minutes, and most of them were about 8 minutes. And so I know, Janine, is that cool? Cynthia. Yeah, Cynthia's one of those ones that's okay at my end of the table. So anyways, so those were the 3 questions, and then those were super mini things. And then I kind of would write notes while I was talking to the person. And I love Zoom because you can kind of get body language, and I totally get being nervous. Like I get super nervous, and like I was probably more nervous than they were on a lot of those calls. But there were certain things that, you know, you can kind of tell like how interested they were and how engaged and that kind of stuff. So it was really cool to kind of read their body language and see that. And then I wrote notes and then and kind of like ranked my like just impression sitting there. And I think that's super important because this is somebody that's going to spend a lot of time with me down the road. So then the next thing that happened is I went through that and I narrowed it down to 5 or 6. And in my case, it was 5. And kind of like I wanted to talk to these people more. And this was the point where I wrote out the entire job description, like every little thing, like, you know, that all the responsibilities, all the things and all that kind of stuff. And I put in exactly like how many hours a week or like, and because this was contract, I knew, you know, I explained that it was going to be very variable, but this is generally what like a main week would be. And then what the rate was, like the right. And so when I sent that out, my main to those 5 people, and obviously blind copied them all, so they didn't know how many people it was sent out to, or who else it was sent out to. And when I sent that out, my main question was, if you read through this and you're still really excited to go forward with this, I'd love to schedule an interview with you. And so the way that worked out was really good for me because 2 of the people, once they read through exactly everything plus the, you know, how much it was going to be, how many hours, they were like, oh, thank you so much for considering me, but this is not going to be a good fit for me. And so those 2 people, you know, just left the application process. And then there was 3 left that I did long interviews with. And those were just kind of traditional interviews. My background is as a physical therapist, so like it was kind of like the same type of interview I was doing when I was like hiring people into a pain clinic or a hospital situation. Obviously, with different skill sets, because that would be just weird. But so I went through that, and Alex Charfen says that he is like, you have to keep interviewing until you have 3 people that are so amazing that you can't decide. And those 3 people that I interviewed were so amazing that I could not decide. And so I felt really, really comfortable that whoever I chose, in fact, that was what the crazy thing was, is when I looked at the 3 people, like I was like, I don't even care, like eeny, meeny, miny, mo. They're all amazing, amazing people. And so I'm not gonna lose this at all. And I think that's kind of his point, is you want to go until you have so many choices, like 3 amazing choices. So just in case something would happen to 1 or 2 of them, you still have an amazing, amazing person. And so it was a little eeny, meeny, miny, mo, but it was also a little bit of skill set to help me decide who to hire. Is one of the applicants just had more experience in the blogging world. So that's how I hired, and it worked really, really well on every single stage. It was a lot of work, but I felt really, really confident that I had made the right decision when I got to that. And then the other thing that Alex Charfen says is that it's super, super important after you've done all this work, like all this work, like which I mean, it was a ton of work. I mean, like the week or 2 I was hiring the assistant, I nearly died because I needed an assistant kind of thing. And so by the time you get them on, is that then my tendency is to just be like, hey, you know, go do it all. You like can figure it out. And his point was, you need to make sure that you're touching base with them every single day the first month, which was like a lot, but it really helped check in to make sure that like because I have a problem with just assuming that everybody can read my mind. And then I find out later they can't, which is like shocking to me. And then I'm like, oh. And by that point, like the misunderstanding, like snowball has gone so far that it's nearly impossible to get back. So this checking in every single day and making sure that I had given them enough information, they had everything they needed to do their job, if there was anything that we could do to make it better, et cetera, it just really was super helpful. So anyway, that's how I did it, and it worked really, really well. It's a system that I'm going to use from here on out. If you ever wondered if you should hire friends or family, Alex Sharfin's Momentum podcast has a podcast episode called Should I Hire Friends or Family Members? I would highly recommend that you listen to that before you go that route. And he has a really clear and objective way to decide whether that's a good idea or not, which I think is amazing. So if you have any questions, I will entertain them. I feel like when you say entertain, I'm like, oh, da, 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 da. But anyway, yeah, super fun stuff. And I really appreciate you guys for hanging out with me today. So y'all, my oldest is graduating from high school tonight, 18 years old. What has happened? Am I like a mom blogger with like teeny tiny kids? No, he's graduating from high school today. So that's our big, and I had to make a poster, which was like super funny because he's like, Mom, don't make me a poster. I'm like, you're not going to be the only kid graduating that doesn't have a poster in the hall, because like all the other moms are going to make a poster, or all the other kids are going to make a poster. So crazy pants. I know, it's so crazy. So I made a poster, and I'm going to make him, I didn't even show it to him because he's going to be mad because I got big pictures. Of course, it was like a scrapbook. It's like a blog post. So anyway, if he doesn't murder me tonight, I'll be back later. I'll be back next week with some more information. If there's anything you guys want me to cover, I'm going to be going live regularly on Holly Homer. It's just something that I love to do, and I'm going to make time for it from here on out. So because this is kind of my love language, and that's kind of what I do. So anyway, if you have anything you want me to cover, just let me know, and I will do it, and I'll tackle it in the future. So have an amazing weekend. Bye.